Today on MH News, we're sharing why your movie or concert ticket is so expensive nowadays. Hello and welcome everyone to MH News. I'm your host, Matt Haslam. For over 15 years now, I've been asked one simple question. Well, actually, most people think it's a simple question, but the answer is actually quite complex. The question comes in two different forms, depending on who's asking. Many people just ask me out of curiosity, what goes into making this possible? But many potential clients might word it a little bit differently, asking, why are you charging what you're charging? Now, this doesn't mean by any means that we're expensive, considering that everyone else charges much more than we do, and yet we have the area's best product. What this does mean, however, is many people that go to a concert or to see a movie don't realize all that goes into making that production possible. Some people wonder why their ticket for a movie might be $8 nowadays, and a ticket to go see a concert might be a minimum of $40 for even B-list artists. And in an economy in the current state that it's in, these prices might seem a little expensive, but believe it or not, every penny of it is justified. This truly isn't difficult to understand though. If I wanted to build the new offices of Matt Haslam Productions, I certainly wouldn't have the slightest clue as to how to go about building it, and most likely I would have some questions for the builders on what exactly they're spending my money on. So how can we as musicians, filmmakers, and engineers expect for someone outside of our industry, not working in it day in and day out, to understand what goes into making a concert or a film possible? This would be unrealistic of us as professionals. Second, we have to consider that this is the entertainment industry after all. The product we provide is entertainment. You see, most people put a value on a building or even the box of cereal they bought last time they were at a grocery store because it's a physical product and not a service. Even most services are valued higher because most people understand that they are asking an electrician to come to their home and fix an issue they have. But when it comes to the entertainment industry, the average person doesn't put much value on the service. Now this is for two reasons. First, when the average person gets home from work, they want to relax and be entertained. And on the rare occasion they go out to see a concert or a film, they don't put much value on someone making them laugh and be entertained. The second reason is because of piracy. How can we expect people to pay a premium for a service when they can easily get it for free somewhere else, either from hobbyists who are willing to work for free, or the audience being able to find almost any film, concert, or album they want to enjoy free on YouTube? I believe the best way to understand this problem is to look at another form of entertainment, such as a theme park. Many people start to question why their ticket to enter the amusement park is so high, but then once they start to look around, they realize the numerous employees who all want to have a paycheck at the end of the week, and some might even look at the roller coasters and other rides, and while the exact value of those rides might be a mystery to most people, the general assumption is that the roller coaster costs several $100,000 and in some cases millions to build and maintain. So suddenly that $50 ticket doesn't seem too expensive. So today I'm going to attempt to answer this age-old question in two parts. Because they are much different from one another, first we're going to go behind the scenes of a music concert, and then we're going to explain a video or a film. And if you just want to learn more about the film side, you could skip ahead, but we encourage you not to do so, as you might learn a lot more by watching this in its entirety. When the average person goes to a concert by their favorite artist, they sit in their chairs and patiently wait for the show to begin. But what most people don't realize is the planning for that show actually began months, if not years ago. As you're watching, please keep in mind that everything you are about to hear can be applied to any live event and not just a music concert. When an artist decides to perform a live show, the first question is, what will they perform? For most comedians and solo performers, the stage is almost like a blank canvas, since there isn't much on stage besides the performer himself. In all cases with a music concert, the stage is filled with set pieces, which all have to not only be built to larger-than-life proportions and still fit inside of road cases at the end of the night, but they also have to be positioned around the band and crew, because when most people look at the stage and see a piece of the set, they might think it's just there for show. But for every live event, every single set piece is on stage for a purpose. Usually that purpose is to hide something behind it, but in some cases, it's there to showcase something else on stage. Either that or it's a piece of gear just to make the overall show work. That's why when an artist decides to do a live event, they call in a team of experts in stage design. Usually the team consists of at least one set designer, lighting designer, a rigging expert, and an audio designer, along with a representative from the building crew who will actually build the entire stage to the specifications constructed by this team of experts, who might meet for several weeks before coming up with a final design. For smaller shows such as a community event, the whole design team might be just one person who's heading all the audio and lighting for that event. And for medium-sized shows such as your county fair, this team might be only 3 or 4 people, but this process is still followed in the same order. When the final design is complete, the building crew goes to work, building the entire stage in massive warehouses, making sure all the lighting and sound gear operates perfectly, and special effects such as pyrotechnics, falling curtains, moving set pieces, and so on all work flawlessly. Then after several months of building, it's finally time to disassemble everything they just built and load it into sometimes 50 tractor trailers, each tractor trailer containing upwards of $1 million of equipment. So the next time you're at an event, look up at the stage and try to imagine what $50 million can buy you. And when you begin to consider many times these tractor trailers are actually also shipping containers, because many shows now travel on world tours, forcing crews to ship their massive stages around the world, don't even consider complaining to these guys about your UPS bill being outrageous. Sorry, but I think they've got you beat. Keep in mind that most times, most of the spotlights on stage cost at least $10,000 a piece. If you've ever seen one of these rows of speakers being suspended from the ceiling, these are called line array speaker systems. Each row of them cost more than $1.5 million. Oh, and that video wall behind the artist, projecting a live video feed? Yep, that costs somewhere in the realm of $55,000 per square yard. Yeah, and you thought the price of silk was bad. And I'm not even mentioning the trussing, which carries all of the gear, which costs more than $100 per foot, and the average stage contains several hundred feet of trussing. Now consider the average stage utilizes several hundred, if not 1,000 spotlights, at least 4 rows of these line array speakers, and that video wall stands 40 feet high and spreads over 100 feet across. Let's just say it's a very bad day at the office when someone forgets to tighten a bolt and something like this happens. Now granted, for smaller events such as a community event, the stage value might be in the range of $50,000 to $100,000, and your average medium-sized show, such as the stage for your local county fair, might be valued somewhere in the range of $200,000 to $500,000. But I would venture to guess most people in the audience wouldn't estimate any size stage anywhere near its actual value. But even this is understandable, since I wouldn't be able to tell you how much the materials cost to build a skyscraper, but yet those in the construction industry could. Once all this gear is loaded into the tractor trailers, it's transported to rehearsal stadiums. Yep, that's right, not the first venue on the list of the tour. The full stage is first taken to a separate stadium, rented out for sometimes a full month before the tour begins, just to enable the performers and crew time to rehearse the entire show and rehearse setting up and tearing down all the gear. For a full month, the entire stage is assembled and disassembled, with full dress rehearsals in between, just to make sure all the gear is working flawlessly. And all the cast and crew know where and when everything will be happening. This later prevents crew from accidentally being seen by the audience, and prevents the performers from getting hurt by massive stage pieces, which are all automatically moving all around them. Finally, all the gear is loaded onto the trucks and shipped to the first venue on the tour, where the massive community of workers, because of tight deadlines, are sometimes forced to set up a minimum of 12 tractor trailers of gear in less than 6 hours. Yes, most times the stage you see on major A-list artist shows is all set up in less than 6 hours. And if that doesn't shock you enough, hear this. After the show, it's all torn down in just 30 minutes. Because time is critical, the need for larger crews is vital to the success of any show. And since the crew travels with the show, the more the crew, the higher the labor cost in doing the show. And on top of the hourly wage, crew are all provided with hotel rooms and catered meals at every stop on the tour. For all shows, the artist gets a caterer all to him or herself, on top of a list of other accommodations, aside from their payment, put into their rider, which is a small portion of their contract with the venue. Then another caterer is hired for the rest of the cast and crew. Even the gas bill is astonishing. In a recent interview with CBS News, country superstar Eric Church told reporters that he travels with 14 tractor trailers and 12 tour buses. Worse yet, the worldly famous band U2 and the incredibly wonderful Taylor Swift each travel with more than 55 tractor trailers. When you consider most tractor trailers get a maximum of 12 miles to the gallon of diesel, and coach buses only get an average of 5.5 miles to the gallon, this means to bring you a U2 or Taylor Swift concert, they burn roughly $25 of gas every mile traveled. Then when you consider how many hundreds of miles the average show requires this convoy to travel, you begin to feel bad about complaining about the gas bill in your Prius. On top of the 55 tractor trailers and 20-some tour buses, whenever Taylor Swift or U2 are performing in an open stadium, which means the stadium doesn't have a ceiling, they rent at least 5 full mobile cranes to lift the trussing into place, and cranes don't come cheap. Again, for smaller and medium-sized shows, the gas bill is much lower, since for the average medium-sized show, it may only require a few tractor trailers and a couple 24-foot box trucks. For the average small show, it may only require one box truck, but keep in mind, the smaller the show is, the less the people will be at the event, paying to see the artist perform. So while the smaller shows might have lower gas bills, lower labor costs since they only require one sound engineer and not a full team, and so on, the profit made on smaller shows is roughly the same percentage of gross sales as the larger ones. The only difference is the amount of gross sales. Please note, none of this factors in those truly behind the scenes. While you may not see all the crew members at an event, you most likely know they are somewhere in the area waiting for the show to be over so they can get to work and get the trucks loaded onto the next show. But what you don't see is the management, record company, booking agents, lawyers, accountants, and marketing directors who each take a percentage of gross sales off the top before any of these other expenses such as gas, labor, and equipment rentals are paid. So while the venue might be paying, let's say, $1 million for an artist to be there, the artist and crew might only ever see 80% of that. So you're actually only seeing $800,000 show, but you're paying $1 million price tag for it. And what many people don't realize is for the average medium-sized show, such as your local county fair, there is a minimum of 6 different companies who are all working to make the show possible, besides the venue itself. Many people assume the same company who's running audio is running lights, but nowadays, for even medium-sized shows, there are separate companies running audio, lighting, projection, staging, videography, and drapery. Let's just take a second to say that it takes one company to basically have cameras to film the live video feed, and another company to project it to the audience. And there's a whole company there just for the curtains and drapery. Yeah, for larger shows, additional companies are called in to handle special effects, and yet another company would be required for any sort of pyrotechnics because of the sensitive nature of the materials. So when you're watching the next concert you attend, keep in mind how many companies you are keeping in business with the cost of your ticket. Furthermore, the venue who is paying for the artist and crew to be there has to make money too, so they have to first pay for the electricity, labor, insurance, and other major expenses before making enough money to make the whole endeavor worthwhile. Keep in mind that most lighting and sound companies and all those other 6 companies we were talking about have more than one show going on at one time, so they might be doing one event for one major A-list artist and doing maybe 10 other shows at the same time. Now that we've learned why your ticket to go see a concert costs what it does, let's dive into the film industry. The average Hollywood